Good morning to you, my friends, wherever you may be in the world today. Alan Clements here from Santa Monica, California, United States of America. May 16th, 2021. This is the 36th talk in a series based upon a newly released book, Extinction, X-Rated. Welcome to today's sharing, wherever you may be. Again, a spontaneous, open-hearted, shared gift from you to me to you, to friends and family, to the future of life. May there be value and benefit in our congregation here today on Sunday from California. I'm thinking, quite spontaneously, what would it be like to look back at precious Mother Earth, our forests, our oceans, our legacies, our memorabilia, individually and collectively. Looking back, if it were possible 10,000 years from now, to have that type of cognitive, psychic skill of reflection, to look at what we don't see necessarily in the day-to-day machinations of choice-making and driving and love-making and dealing in how we navigate and help other people navigate the hellscape that we are forced to participate in based upon the context of our lives and interrelating with nearly 8 billion other human lives and non-human lives on this ecosystem called Mother Earth, spinning around the obvious sunball, our solar system sun. And here we are, virtually sitting, standing, thinking, talking in May of 2021, each of us faced with our own conundrums, our conditioning, our subconscious, our scars and ruptures of traumas and struggles from the past. If you're human, like all of us, the anticipation of complexity and crises as we inch forward, some faster, some slower, towards the precipice of mortality, aging, disease. Pause. If I were to look back, and I invite you to list the things that you would perhaps see as a gift to the present civilization of our brothers and sisters today, what would you say? What would you deliver? What would you put into your titanium tube and bury deep, deep into the subconscious as a gift to the future of life 10,000 years from now? Don't do this. Don't do that. What would you say to your beloved family of children, if in fact the entire human race and non-humans themselves were all of our beloved citizens, family and friends and relatives? What would we say to them 10,000 years from now? Don't do this, don't do that. What would you say to yourself, Alan? What would you say to your daughter? What would you say to your mother, to your father, your brother, your sister, your cousin, your friend? What don't you say? Why don't you say it? When will you say it? When will you feel it? When will you think it? Are you dreaming it yet? Why hold back, looking back 10,000 years from now at the sanctity and the horror of the human species intermingling with the other species on this precious planet? A horrible, horrible horrorscape of bliss and terror. To state the obvious, the land saturated in historic levels of blood and genocide, and the gift of ascension, religion, birth, one birth, the sanctity of a birth, a woman giving birth, an animal giving birth. We're all there bearing witness as sacred doulas to the birth of life. Are you there on your metaphorical knees as we sanctify the birth of life? All of us born into innocence, right? And look at us as we grow old. We learn to adapt and normalize things that are so contrary to our own best interest. We soil the land, we soil the air, we denigrate the oceans, we denigrate each other, and equally at times we gift each other with the beauty of love, of kindness, of compassion. I ask you, I invite you to invite me. What would you do? What would you say looking back 10,000 years from now to the inhabitants of our precious planet? Stop, as has been said. Just stop. Please stop. Stop. Feel, stop. Trust in the instinctual understanding of a more silent, mindful, heartfelt mind that isn't driven by the narratives of propaganda and conditioning, domination, subjugation, slavery, war. What would we think if we look back 10,000 years from now at the 440 nuclear power plants chugging along on the electrification to generate these atomic particles that, if any one of these silos melt down Chernobyl-like, Fukushima-like, and all of a sudden, decade after decade, the earth and the water and the air absorbs these nuclear particles only to radiate the oceans and the food supplies. And yet again, unnoticed, the normalization of these nuclear power plants, looking back 10,000 years from now, if only 5, 10, 20, 3, one of them drops down, if only one of them drops down and spreads the nuclear particles all throughout, and we've got these warheads stationed in different countries around the world. Hey, boys and girls and privileged powers, what are you thinking with these nuclear weapons poised at each other's minds and hearts and babies not yet born? What are you thinking? Decommission those things ASAP. No. Under the Obama administration, he committed over $1 trillion to upgrading our nuclear arsenal, running on a campaign of nonviolence and de-escalation. That's called epic hypocrisy, and it's normalized and tolerated. We're looking back 10,000 years from now. What will we shout out in our wisdom? What will we put into the titanium tube to give a gift to the people of life today, to you, to your children, to me? It's a worthy exercise to catapult our mindfulness so far out and to look back with that prescient, higher, more inclusive perspective of seeing things beyond the myopia of rent and need and fear and the next morsel, the next petroleum, the next, the more, the less, the machinations, the minutiae of dealing with the ordinary. And here we find ourselves just fixated on the most basic things of survival. And Jeff Bezos buys a new yacht, $500 million for he and his squeeze to hang on this 457-foot mega yacht with his 171 billion additional dollars of profit post-pandemic. And the obscenity looking back 10,000 years from now. How come you humans didn't understand the beauty of generosity, sharing, abundance? How come you did not understand the machinations of self-centered, narcissistic greed, and you allowed 1, 2, 5, 50, 500 individuals to accumulate the world's wealth and subjugate the rest of the populations into manufacturing livestock like animals, like artificial intelligence encapsulated in flesh and blood, to work, to slave, and to subjugate for the few? How come you got it so wrong when you didn't understand equality, safety? Why did you not understand the stupidity of nuclear weapons poised to kill? Why did you not study the machinations of Nagasaki and Hiroshima? Why do you keep building nuclear armed power plants and ships and battleships Why do you keep doing these things when you know that they destroy the earth thousands of times over? How come you did not get it right? And now there is no life on this precious planet, no animal life, no tree life, no human life. 10,000 years from now, why did you let your species go into extinction and take out thousands, if not millions, of other species along with you? Why did you create an uninhabitable planet? Wow. Wow. What side of the bed did you grow up on? How come you are speaking this way today? Pause. If we don't steward the ship, we are stewarding the ship collectively in the delusion of looking at those stars and thinking that they're light. A deluded narrative, a deluded navigation. I ask you, looking back 10,000 years from now, throw that message out of the bottle. What would you tell our president? What would you tell the United Nations? How come you didn't understand and exercise the principle of safety and protection? How come you human beings allowed entire regions of the world to be watched and witnessed as if it was another episode of Game of Thrones? The people of Burma, Israel and Palestine, Somalia, Cambodia, Syria, Yemen, Iraq, pulling out our troops from Afghanistan after the desecration of an entire population for 2 decades. How come that is celebrated when we have committed a genocide in that sacred land based upon the needs to prolong a narrative of delusion, to sell weapons, to play in the realm of white supremacist, imperialistic, genocidal toys and games and fantasies? How come you guys didn't understand the distinction between a wisdom concept and a hallucinatory, violent phantasm? Did you not study consciousness sufficiently to understand the nature of the mind over the wealth of stuff? How come you created a kingdom where you elevated stuff and things and loot and profit, and you placed all of your ridiculous worth and wealth into stuff? How come you didn't see the oceans filling up with microparticles of plastic? How come you didn't understand the desecration of all the various places in the oceans calcified by your inability to understand your relationship to what you do, how you behave, what you eat, what you excrete, and how it affects context? How come you didn't understand spatial relationships and impact on resources? How come you didn't understand unbridled fetishism with greed and profit and the endless pursuit of economic fantasies, right? Over sustainability. A respect for harnessing light over fossil fuels that emit poisons and toxicity. How come you didn't understand that what you breathe needs to be remained pure? 10,000 years from now, my God, my life is immeasurably claustrophobic, getting more claustrophobic. How come we're going to need vaccine passports? How come I need multiple jabs from new variants as they become more and more lethal? How come you didn't understand the folly of bioweapons labs? How come you didn't understand the ignorance of gain of function to increase lethality of a bioweapon so that it could become more effective at killing life, including your own species? You let the terror of a bioweapon either be released or forcibly put into culture? Are you that demonic? How come you didn't understand the nature of light and darkness within consciousness? How come you did not teach spiritual and emotional and psychological and cultural and environmental intelligence from birth? How come you let greed and profit and the oceans and the airs filled with particles that pollute and to kill? How come you didn't understand influence of stuff on natural resources? What is your list of 10,000? Looking back, oh my God, the children, we did not sanctify the birth of life. We did not understand the sacred. I'm going to throw in a big metaphorical psychedelic dose of compassion and love and the psilocybin mixed with the existential DMT, the MEO, the meditative, the numismatic, the nibbana, and all of a sudden the whole planet is not still. How come we didn't understand the power of meditation to feel beyond the narratives that were convenient? How come we didn't understand the study of consciousness as primary over the need for profit and privilege and power and predation, on and on and on? How come we didn't understand and harness the beauty of deep introspection to see the nuances and the machination, of one thing? How come we didn't understand the application of experiential Dhamma, the lawfulness of the ecosystem of mind with the subconscious, with the psychological, with the environmental, with the intimate, with the resources, with the air? How come we didn't understand contextual wisdom? How come we're looking at this today as an underground movement when the future of life is going to be soon silenced from the tsunami of ignorance called the sixth mass human extinction? Nuclear power plants, nuclear weapons and missiles poised at each other, the insanity of this Truman Show. It is purely sick. Why are suicides going through the metaphorical ceiling? Why is domestic and international and collective violence so normalized? Why are pharmaceutical drugs being drunk as if they're the nectar of longevity? We are coming unhinged as a species, right? 10,000 years from now, looking back at this very moment, who are you? Who am I? Am I willing? How come you weren't willing to pause, to breathe, to reflect on the consideration at the crossroad of our own global individual choice making? Which road will I take today, this hour, this month, individually and collectively? How come we didn't empower mindful discernment to know how to release that which denigrates and how to embrace that which elevates? Thank you for today. I felt the need just to be spontaneous with that one phrase of 10,000 years from now, looking back. I don't know that I have answers. I just trust in the free flow of information. And hopefully throughout the day and the week, there'll be something that assimilates deeper into the fabric of my own mindfulness and my own spirituality. Allow me to close with a few spontaneous statements. I was thinking, as this week has gone on, about the issue of mortality and the issue of death, the preponderance of the denial of continuity, not in form, but in consciousness, and how easy it is to deny the certainty of mortality, the certainty of death, and live in the momentum of the narrative of convenient truths, ordinary insights, and conditioned behaviors and thoughts. Pause. I was thinking about the classical famous story attributed to the teachings of the Buddha in the Tipitaka, the classical Buddhist texts, the three baskets. And Kisa Gotami, a well-known woman apparently at the time of the Buddha, was really deeply attached and in love with her only son, her only child. And the child had something happen where the child was killed or died. And of course, as the story is told, Kisa Gotami was crestfallen, brokenhearted, and wept in the village. And people told her, there is no hope for the return of your son. And she kept begging people, please help me to understand the grace of the miracle. There must be a miracle in this universe for the cure of death. And so they suggested going to the Buddha, and the dialogue is around the Buddha and this woman, Kisa Gotami. On first appearance, it's very simple. She's saying, I understand, sir, through your own psychic skills that you could bring life back where it has died. And Gautama says to Gautami, if you find a home where there is someone who has never experienced or known someone to die, bring that mustard seed to me. And if you could bring that seed to me, I'll restore your son back to life. And she went home to home, and the dialogue goes from home to home, where the question is asked on the doorstep of infinity, do you know anyone who has not known death? Have you had death in this home? And they all said, yes, we have had death in this home. A cousin, an uncle, a parent, a child, an aunt, a friend, home after home. And slowly, as she looked back 10,000 years across time and lifetimes, household after household, overcoming the narrative of the conditioning, the myopic, the meta-awareness. Looking back 10,000 years, what would you say to the people of the planet today? The meta-awareness. Mindfulness and meditation as meta-awareness of conditions, the spectrum of life, birth, aging, disease, and death. And Gautami had the realization, apparently, according to this discourse, that my goodness, my belief in continuity was a myth. Death is the nature of birth. And it's not just at the end of a lifetime, it's every nanosecond of time. There's the unpredictability, the complete uncertainty of the next. Every moment is tempered by mortality, the re-deathing moment to moment. The arising of a fire isn't one continuous fire, it's the continuation only of air, of wood, and then there's flames. The fire of life, and in one instant the condition is gone, and mid-breath, you, me, friends, the forest, the planet itself, the great silence extinguished. It's rare that we get to look back 10,000 years at our lifetime, and I'm thinking of Gautami talking to the Buddha. I'm Gautami, you're Gautami. What is most sacred that I do not want to depart from? I don't want to depart from the forest. I don't want to depart from the cleanliness of the oceans and the fish and the birds. I don't want to depart from my love. I don't want to depart from my association with beautiful states of mind and beautiful people. I don't want to be associated with the unpleasant. I don't want to be associated with that which hurts. I don't want to be associated with those who rape and kill. I don't want to participate in the war machine. I don't want to participate in the denigration of the environment, of the future of life. I must study my own deep engagement in what I do and how I think and what I buy and how I use those things and their influence on now, on the future, on the community, on the future of life, looking back 10,000 years from now? How do you live, Alan, now in denial of what you do and its influence on the immediacy of life and on the future of life? Call off the neurotic momentum of denial, of profit, of privilege. We need a top 10 list of things to interrupt the flow of ignorance right now. What would they be? And so as I close today, one for me would be the primacy of consciousness over profit and privilege and all the things that come from the denial of context and of understanding, as Gautami had to understand, the power of one's own mind. Feel deep into one's own nature to discover the truth of one's own being, not to be afraid of death, of aging, of illness, to challenge it where it's felt, here and now. When I think of Gautami, it's not just looking at death and understanding its normalcy. Therein lies something happened in her as I see it in myself, looking back where the future of life is going to be so denigrated. Some people talk that maybe we have 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Some people write in books, in films, that 30, 40, 50 years will be so dystopian from the day in which we live today that it will be an inexcusable nightmare. I can't even imagine what it would be like to live in a Blade Runner, Mad Max dystopian future where cannibalism is the norm, human beings eating each other, no longer able to survive without doing the unthinkable. What's going down in Somalia, in Afghanistan, in Syria today, the day in the life of a boy and a girl being assassinated and raped in the gulags of Burma, the satanic ritual of ignorance perpetually being played out. How come we didn't understand the rise of global authoritarianism in China and their decimation of the Hong Kong democracy movement, of the Muslim Uyghurs, the desecration of the Tibetans in the Tibetan plateau? How come we didn't pay attention to these great, huge tsunamis of totalitarianism? How come we didn't understand the beauty of freedom when we had a chance to elevate the revolutionary cry, democracy or death, as they're saying in Burma today? How come we didn't fight the good fight for the protection and the sanctity of our children's children and the unbirthing of our delusion and the rebirthing of our wisdom and compassion? How come we did not keep the primacy of consciousness alive? How come we did not understand the importance of compassion? How come we didn't teach emotional and spiritual and mindful intelligence in our kindergartens? How come we didn't trash and throw out and dismantle capitalism? How come we didn't redistribute the wealth? How come we didn't dismantle the nuclear power plants? How come we couldn't learn to talk to one another to end nuclear armaments and this great, great thrust towards mutual self-annihilation? How come we didn't get it right? Why are we waiting for others to get it right? We're in a collapse looking 10,000 years back from now. History repeats itself. Meta-spheres, meta-awareness. Find me a mustard seed, woman, my friend, and your son will come back to life. It's the nature. Oh my God. The primacy of Sanvega. This little rattle that I have personally with my own angel of death and the ongoing challenge to understand the challenge to that narrative. I refuse to participate in your story. Life is the gift of the magic of the primacy of feeling the urgency of living a life that really truly matters on the terms of your conscience and your integrity 10,000 years from now, live in conscience, acts of conscience. Learn the sacredness of the 30 articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Break down the firewall around the CCP's maniacal closure of freedom of broadcasting beautiful ideas to the freedom-loving people of China. How come the world tolerates a digital wall around 1.4 billion people? How come you don't see that as a form of maniacal apartheid, desecration of human life, environmental life? How come you don't call out Xi Jinping in his amount of coal power plants starting up as we speak? More than all coal power plants worldwide this year going on. And we worry about something to do with this or that, when in fact all of that, all of those carbon emissions, all of that desecration of the air, all of those plastics and cars, haven't we filled the oceans enough? Haven't we seen the death of the fish and the plankton and the coral reefs? Haven't we seen the acidification of the oceans sufficiently enough 10,000 years from now? Hey guys, you are soiling your earthly nest so rapidly, it makes exponential look like kindergarten gradation. You are over the cliff. You are planetary Gotamis. You all will weep. You all have committed collective genocide. You did not understand the sanctity of love. Would it be that simple that all of a sudden, all of us as a planetary species, the big collective respect for all, how come you didn't, as a species, empower wonderment, the beauty of imagination? How come you didn't learn to undress pretense and the fear of doing without, to dance in the nakedness of your own respect for the miracle of life, the sanctity and the safety of a shared life? How come you didn't learn the art of holding hands and reconciling differences over the belligerence and the righteousness and the indignation of shoot, shoot, shoot? Have you not seen the blood and the anguish and the torment of war after war after war? How long do you need to be deafened, Gotami, by the statistics of death through the righteousness of murder? Enough to see the folly of killing over the sanctity of peace? 10,000 years from now, oh species, you worship at the altar of your own narcissism, and you did not understand that it was a projection of stupidity, and you called it Jesus, you called it Buddha, you called it Allah. You did not understand the hypnosis driven by hypocrisy. Consciousness, the psychedelic, the meditative, the nuministic, the existential, the primacy of the wonderment of the mystical. How come it was just in the hands of just so few of you boys and girls that know how to make music, that know how to make love, that know how to dance, that know how to respect each other at a party, that know how to lead from the heart rather than from the arrogance of continuity of white or color or privilege or domination? You did not understand the stupidity of slavery for your need to live in wealth. 456 feet of narcissistic penis-driven yachtdom from Jeff Bezos. $500 million yacht. Oh my God. Oh my God. How come you did not understand the power of mindfulness, the power of mindful intelligence. And I'll close here. The one thing I would shout back 10,000 years from now, hey, you boys and girls on planet Earth, step down from your throne of righteousness and study the trans-religious architecture of just two things. How to challenge, overcome, and have the ethical, spiritual courage to challenge and overcome your own greed, fear, and anger. Look around the world. Have we not seen enough blood and murder and rape and genocide and buildings and urbification and electrification and the denigration of nature and the future of life based upon those three states of mind? Greed, anger, and delusion. They've been identified. Overcome them. Learn the sacred mindful art of non-participation in self-denigration. And when we identify with those states of mind, we denigrate our family, our community, our planet, and the future of life, all by states of mind. The ecosystem of overcoming self and other denigration, and the elevation of the good, the true, and the beautiful. Have we not seen the efficacy of empowering love over hate? Oh my God, how cliched that is. Overcoming fear and empowering compassion. Caring for others rather than hoarding as need. The basic paradigm set of studying the characteristics, the manifestations, and the functions of states of mind. Teachers in my life that I've respected, and myself over the last 10 years primarily, the efficacy of the felt, realistic, intimate, deep study of states of consciousness. That, to me, is the teaching of timelessness and the sanctity of life. And within that, trusting in the ingenuity that the more we release ourselves from the gravitational forces of these kilesas, these afflictions, these denigrating states of mind, yes, it's a bad design that we have to deal with them. But here is the fundamental task: overcoming denigration, elevating love, compassion, patience, truthfulness, the efficacy of kindness, tenderness, intimacy. Absolutely. Living in the radiance of a free world through a free mind. The core issue, hey, human beings, freedom is the greatest gift that you have. It comes with a responsibility to further enhance your own interior freedom. Learn to share what you do have as elements of the material, and equally the responsibility to enhance and to protect and to creatively elevate the freedom of others as well as the unborn. And therein lies 10,000 years from now, what will you take out of your poetic bottle and put into the ethers of timelessness? And you sing to your angel and you deliver to your God. What will you leave for the future of life 10,000 years from now? Looking back, hey, fellow brothers and sisters, I took a moment today, Sunday here, May 16th in 2021, where the whole world is narrowing through a pandemic, the confusion of who to believe, the endless vaccination, the perpetuation of the cobra head of totalitarianism descending upon the planet, the decimation of ecosystems, the pollution of the oceans, plastics in the air, in the fish, in the lungs, the overheating of an atmosphere, the acidification of oceans, the release of methane in the Arctic, the burning of all of these precious forests, virgin, old growth, new growth, the digging and the gouging of the earth, fracking, nuclear weapons, nuclear power, the big 24/7 pulsation of the ecosystem of urbanization worldwide. What will you yell, scream, sing, paint, poeticize, create artistic theater, theatrical activism, existential, rad scream, literary prose, sonic auditory vibrations that penetrate the field of denial and ignorance, drop through your pretense, get naked, sing a song on the bow of your Titanic because we're on the same ship and we're going down, because go to me is you, me, her son are all creatures born. We're going into the sixth mass existential anthropocentric extinction, and we want to leave a message out of the bottle for future life. What will it be? How well will you live today? What will you do? It's not about more time, more breath, more future, more sex, more books, more money, Mr. Bezos. More, all the while it's done. We have a brief moment where we're crying, go to me like with the Buddha. I want my son back. I want life back. I want my heart back. I want my earth back. I want my conscience back. I want my freedom back. What do you really want more than anything? Identical to go to me wanting her son back. What is the passion of your soul, Alan? I want to break bread, I want to live, I want to dance, I want to make love, I want to be in the sanctity of a Dhamma field, I want a sacred garden, I want to take off my shoes and not fear rape for my daughter. I don't want to be shot by an arrow of fear and denial, mistaken for an antelope, when in fact we can breathe and harness light to satisfy the needs of organs larger than form and time. I want to be in the field of Nibbana. I want to be with my sacred Sangha members. I want to be with my beloved Avalokiteshvara, deep Maitreya. I want to be so in tantric fusion, transfusion, trans-love, trans-intimacy, autonomy, connectivity. I want to be in a land where poetry is allowed, money is not needed, fear is obsolete, where the dream is empowered through endless release of wonderment. I want to co-create with you without the fear of denigration, pesticides, Monsantos, nuclear weapons. I don't want to die of disease. I want to be free of a field of all calamity. Dream is the message. Don't fight. Make music. Don't kill. You've still got time to dissolve those power plants and those nuclear arsenals. Come down off the throne of ignorance. You're all mortal. Cry out, sing out. What is your message out of your bottle to the future of life, 10,000 years into the future? I beg of you, what will we know that we don't know today, to look back, to tell ourselves today, 10,000 years hence, hey, you humans, what does your heart want more than anything for itself? And please consider the hearts of others as well. We are interrelated species, an interrelated cosmos, an inseparable, multidimensional, trans-infinite configuration of ignorance and intelligence. I want to understand the secret things on how to live in a sacred environment free of violence. How to decode violence from the genome of God and the devil. Dhamma. May the word Dhamma, D-H-A-M-M-A, the Sanskrit word Dharma, May the utterance of those sonic vibratory wisdom fields be known worldwide, cosmic, trans, local wide, and may human beings understand beyond the religiosity of you associating with those words, enter consciousness and learn the fine art, which we all are doing in our own humble way, but elevate, escalate, engage, and take it higher. Take Dhamma, so real, it's the oxygen of civilization, the oxygen of freedom, the oxygen of compassion, the oxygen of all things good. It decodes fear. It overcomes projection. It minimizes the myopia of narcissism. And it's the beautification of shared love. And so from my heart to yours, if Dhamma means something to you, find its applied meaning in every interaction, the way we sit, eat, walk, talk, and learn the overcoming. What do you do? I learn how to overcome my own fear, greed, anger, and delusion. Equally, I engage in beautiful states of mind. That is my vocation. I am a spiritual being. I am a human being. I'm a mindfully awake, intelligent being in context, trying to create a sacred world free of violence. What is your raison d'etre? What will you tell the future of life, looking back 10,000 years from now? Hey, human beings, this is what I think. These are my 10 suggestions on how to turn this thing around. So from my heart to yours, thank you for being in my life. And by the way, go to me according to this sacred sutta attributed to the teachings of the Buddha. She got it. The gift of impermanence. Nothing can be held. The most sacred, my son. The most sacred, my idea of permanency. And she released, it said, into the wisdom of impermanence, the deathless, and soon thereafter rejoiced in the freedom from the propaganda of time, of death, of old age, and primarily overcame the propaganda of ignorance, the Dhamma of wisdom. So from my heart to yours, thank you for being in my life. And here it is on Sunday. I've got a busy week going up to hospital all week. I hope to be here in the mornings, but I can't be sure. So you'll be hearing from me, God willing, and I hope to be hearing from you, God willing as well. Thank you for being in my life. Thank you for texting. Thank you for your beautiful notes. I cannot be alive in who I am without you. Have a great day.